They spent centuries erasing this from history. But now it's too late, because you're about to discover the truth that the ancients risked their lives to protect. Your mind creates reality, and not as a metaphor, but as a literal law of existence. While you go on thinking everything is just coincidence, there is an invisible structure manipulating what you feel, think, and attract. This structure has a name, and it was hidden in codes, symbols, and secret scriptures. Until now. Today, for the first time, you'll hear what they called forbidden metaphysics. And when you understand what it really is, your reality will no longer follow the rules of the world. But pay attention. If you leave before the end, you'll miss the moment when everything connects. The complete code that turns thought into matter. And it starts to vibrate within you in this very video. The universe is mental, sustained by the mind of the all. He who masters the mind masters everything. What you see with your eyes is not what really exists, and what truly exists cannot be seen with the eyes. That alone would be enough to collapse everything you were taught about the world since you were born. But the ancients already knew this. Long before any laboratory or telescope, long before modern physics, Thoth and the Hermetic masters had already recorded in stone, on papyri, and in silence. The universe is mental. Everything that exists, time, space, matter, is the consequence of an infinite mental field that surrounds you and at the same time passes through you. This is not poetry. It is not a metaphor. It is a hidden structure of reality that remains invisible to those who see only with the senses. And this is exactly where the key lies. Because when you believe that the world is solid, fixed, objective, you live like a pawn in a game where you don't know the rules. But when you realize that the universe is a malleable field shaped by consciousness, everything changes. Because if the all is mind, then your mind is a direct extension of the all, and that puts you in a place no one wants you to occupy, that of creator. Now imagine this. What you call reality is just the appearance. The body you feel, the walls that surround you, the objects around you, even the time you perceive passing. All of this depends on your mind to exist, and more, it depends on how your mind perceives in order to manifest in one way or another. When you understand this, you stop being a powerless observer and start becoming an artist. The world is the canvas. Your mind is the brush. But what were you taught? That you are just a piece, a small, limited being, at the mercy of random circumstances, a cosmic accident trying to survive. But that was a carefully crafted lie, because when you believe that, you never find out that you can shape your own existence with your mental vibration. And yes, even science has already noticed this. The famous double-slit experiment, conducted and repeated in numerous laboratories, shows that subatomic particles behave differently depending on observation. The simple presence of an observer changes the behavior of matter. This means that the world doesn't happen outside of you. It happens along with you. Reality responds to your attention, your intention, the way you think and feel. And the more you believe that everything is separate from you, the more trapped you become in this illusion. What Thoth revealed, and what was erased for millennia, is that physical reality is an echo. It is the consequence. What generates it, what sustains it, what commands it, is on the inside. That's why the wise ones of the East meditated in silence. That's why the alchemists spoke of transmuting the mind before the world. That's why the temples were built based on sacred geometry, all to align the vibration of consciousness with the essence of the all. But the inevitable question arises. If the universe is mental, and if you are part of this creative mind, why does your life seem not to correspond to this power? Why is there still so much suffering, chaos, repetition? Why, even with all this knowledge coming to you now, is there still something that prevents you from fully living this truth? The Black Dragon, the secret code to free your subconscious. But if the universe really responds to your consciousness, why is your life still being shaped by forces that seem beyond your control? Why do so many things happen even when you don't want them to, or when you're trying to change? The answer is not on the surface. It lies in the invisible command that operates behind the scenes of your mind, the subconscious. This silent puppeteer is operating right now, even as you hear these words. It doesn't ask, it doesn't negotiate, it simply executes. Everything you believe about what you deserve, what is possible, what is dangerous, what you should avoid or seek, all of that was stored there, without filters, and it was accumulated without your conscious consent. From your first breath you started to be programmed. Words, looks, tones of voice, traumas, compliments, absences, other people's beliefs. Everything entered and was recorded as truth. The subconscious has no critical sense. It doesn't distinguish what is real from what is symbolic. It simply accepts. And the most shocking part, it repeats. It replicates patterns you saw and felt thousands of times. And this becomes destiny. You think you're making decisions by choice, but most of the time, you're just reacting to old programming. When you try to change, it reacts with discomfort. It creates resistance, sabotage, doubts. Not out of malice, but because it was trained to protect. And for it, protection is synonymous with repetition. If what you lived was scarcity, it believes that is safe. If what you saw was abandonment, it will predict and attract more of the same. It prefers the familiar, even if painful, to the new, even if liberating. And until this is brought to light, you will keep living the same cycles with different names. Similar relationships, similar crises, repeated fears. And the worst part, you don't even realize you're being led. The conscious mind is like the ship's captain who gives the orders, but the subconscious is the engine. And if that engine is out of tune, it doesn't matter where you say you want to go. The ship will always return to where it's used to sailing. But this is not a sentence. It's a map. Because if you understand where the route is, you can start interacting with it. And the ancients knew this. They left clues, hidden tools to transform this concealed code. And it was precisely to deal with this hidden engine that the ancients left veiled records, encrypted metaphors, and secret practices. They knew that as long as the subconscious remained unobserved, it would keep shaping destinies automatically. They called this force by many names, but among the alchemists, one name echoed strongly: the Black Dragon. And this was no coincidence. This dragon was not an external monster. It represented the lower mind in its raw, chaotic, reactive state. A symbolic entity that holds both the poison of repetition and the antidote of liberation. The Black Dragon is the symbol of dormant power. It is not evil. It is primitive. It acts based on everything that was imprinted on it since childhood. And that's precisely why it has so much power. It holds unprocessed emotions, traumas, forgotten memories, silent pacts made in moments of pain. It doesn't attack by choice, it protects by instinct. But that instinct, if not purified, becomes a prison. The alchemists used to say, gold is not born pure. It needs to be extracted from chaos, fire, and darkness. That's what they were talking about. The philosopher's stone, more than any external substance, was a symbol of the transmuted mind, a state of consciousness that is only reached when the dragon is faced, and not with violence, but with clarity. The Gnostics called this same process the illumination of the living shadow. They knew that liberation wouldn't come from denying the unconscious, but from looking at it with presence, from recognizing the patterns that act without being seen, from bringing to light what was operating in the shadows. And here is the most important detail. No transformation happens with conscious will alone, because the subconscious does not respond to rational commands. It responds to symbols, mental images, emotional sensations, vibrational states. That's why superficial techniques don't work. The ancients knew this. That's why they created rituals. Not as superstition, but as direct language with the invisible part of the mind. Every symbolic gesture, every deep breath, every vivid visualization activated a new frequency. They used archetypes to access zones inaccessible to the common mind. And it worked, because they were speaking the language of the subconscious, the language before language, the vibration behind the words. Some of these methods have survived through time. Deep meditation, the repetition of affirmations in states of relaxation. Visualization, as if the desire had already been fulfilled, and not as a request to the universe, but as an energetic decree that rewrites internal codes. The initiates did this in silence, isolated from the world's distractions, because they knew that external noise directly interferes with the internal vibrational field. And that was the key point. It's not enough to wish for a new reality. You have to rebuild the invisible program that runs life behind thought. And this is only possible when you access the subconscious at the right frequency, when you stop fighting the dragon and learn to train it. It is raw strength, but when aligned, it becomes the power of creation. This is the beginning of true inner alchemy. Not the kind that promises instant magical formulas, but the kind that requires presence, repetition, intention, and surrender. A process that doesn't happen overnight, but that transforms entire realities with roots that were buried for decades. The forbidden faith, the power that transforms reality into matter. Even with all these hidden techniques, with the right symbols, the exact rituals, and reprogramming in progress, something still seemed to be missing. Many tried, few succeeded, and it was at this point that the ancient masters pointed to what has been the most misunderstood concept over the centuries: the force that connects everything, the invisible thread that makes reality leave the realm of ideas and condense into matter. They called it faith, but not in the religious or dogmatic sense we know today, not as hope, nor as blind belief. Faith, to them, was a spiritual science, an internal vibration of absolute certainty, a conviction so deep that it allows no doubt, no fear, no resistance. Thoth said that faith was like a vibrational framework that sustains a form before it is born. Imagine it like a seed that already contains the entire tree within itself. But unlike what many think, this faith is not generated by words. It is born from a state, from a connection with something that is already real, even if it has not yet manifested. At this level, the universe does not respond to requests. It responds to the vibration of certainty. The Gnostics knew this. That is why they were persecuted, because they claimed that faith was the true source of creative power. They taught that everything that exists first passed through this invisible field. Every structure, every object, every experience, everything was, before being seen, a point of consciousness sustained by this field. And whoever mastered this field, mastered matter. But over time, this knowledge was distorted. Faith became memorized prayers, empty repetition, a desperate cry, hoping that something external would come to save. And with that, the real power of this force was drained. What was a vibrational code was turned into superstition. What was a state of creation became submission. However, those who continued on the hidden path knew faith without emotion is just thought. Faith without internal alignment is just mental will. And will without vibration is like a seed without water. It does not bloom. It does not move. It does not create. That is why so many affirm, declare, visualize, and nothing changes. Because the element that activates the seed is missing. The frequency that gives life to the mold. The energy that transforms certainty into living manifestation. And this energy is not mental. It does not come from the intellect. It comes from somewhere else, deeper, more instinctive, more sacred. This deep energy that gives life to faith is not an abstract concept. It is a pulsing force, present in the body, in the field, in the soul. It has a name, emotion. And while many try to create with the mind, the ancients already knew that it is the heart that ignites the fire of creation. Emotion is not an accessory. It is the vibrational core that communicates with the universe in real time. It defines the tone of your frequency. It determines what manifests and what cannot leave the invisible plane. The oldest traditions knew this without needing a laboratory. The Sufis spun until they reached ecstasy, not to escape reality, but to create a vibrational state capable of dissolving the veils between the visible and the invisible. When they danced, they generated such pure and intense emotions that the soul expanded. It was not art, it was spiritual science. And all of this had one goal: to activate the inner fire. What the Rosicrucians called the water of the soul, the emotion that waters the seed of thought and makes the invisible bloom. Because without emotion, the mind is just an echo. You can think positively all day long, but if what vibrates in you is fear, anxiety, doubt, that is what the universe picks up. The universe responds to what you vibrate, not what you wish. Intention is the plan, but emotion is the fuel. And here is something many avoid looking at. Negative emotions also create. They also activate the field, but they create distortion. They create chaos. They create painful repetitions. Chronic anger shapes heavy environments. Resentment creates diseases. Guilt attracts disguised punishments. The inner victim generates realities where you are always being wronged. And all this happens even if you are saying, "I want to prosper. I want love. I want to change." The universe does not hear your words, it feels your vibration. That is why the masters taught to purify the emotional field, to release the accumulated charge in the body, in the organs, in the thoughts. Because where there is stagnant emotion, there is energetic blockage. And where there is blockage, creation stalls. That is why so many try to apply techniques and decrees without success. Because the emotion that moves is stuck or inverted. But when you access the right emotion, the entire field responds. True gratitude, not the fake kind, opens portals. Authentic joy reorganizes your cells. Vibrational certainty dissolves obstacles. This is not magic. It is energetic architecture. And you are the architect. Today, science is beginning to prove what the ancients already knew for millennia. The electromagnetic field of the heart is thousands of times stronger than that of the brain. It radiates, it informs, it commands. When the heart vibrates in coherence with the thought, the entire universe realigns. It is as if the code is finally deciphered, and what was held back begins to move. The frequency code, the vibration that chooses your reality. If emotion is the invisible engine that moves the universe, then frequency is the language it understands. Everything vibrates. Everything emits a field. And the reality you are living now is the exact response to what you have been emitting, even if unconsciously. It doesn't matter what you say you want. What matters is what you are vibrating. The ancients knew this without needing experiments. They didn't talk about frequency with modern words, but they used sounds, rhythms, symbols, gestures, and even silence to align the body with the universe. In the Egyptian temples, each mantra was chanted with a specific purpose, not to please the gods, but to generate a vibration that reorganized the practitioner's energy field. Because they knew that sound changes form. Vibration shapes matter. Energy influences the physical world more precisely than any external tool. Centuries later, Masaru Emoto would confirm this with the water crystals. Words of love created beautiful symmetrical shapes. Words of hate, distorted and chaotic shapes. If words, which are vibrations, affect water, imagine what they do to your body, which is mostly made of it. Imagine what they do to your field. Imagine what they do to the reality around you. When you sustain a frequency, whether it is peace, guilt, abundance, or lack, you are not just feeling it internally. You are transmitting it. And everything you transmit comes back. Not as punishment or reward, but as resonance, as a vibrational echo. The universe does not react to you with morality. It responds with precision. It returns what you are sustaining. That is why so many true spiritual practices don't focus on asking, but on tuning in. Because it's no use asking for prosperity while vibrating scarcity. It's no use seeking love while vibrating rejection. It's no use repeating affirmations with your mind while your heart vibrates fear. What creates is not the phrase, it is the frequency. And here is the most important point. Frequency is not a thought. It is a state. It is the result of everything. Your breathing, your posture, the images you sustain, the words you consume, the environments where you live, the people with whom you exchange energy. All of this combined generates a vibrational signature. And this signature communicates with the universe all the time, even in silence. When you understand this, everything changes. Because you stop trying to control the external and start working on your internal emission. You start realizing that you are not a victim of the world. You are an emitter, a transmitter, a generator of reality. And this is not spiritual fantasy. It is law. It is code. It is exact. But despite all this, there is still a prison that keeps most people stuck in a limited frequency. A prison that distorts what they emit, even when they seem to be on the right path. This invisible prison has a subtle name but a devastating effect. Time. It is not what it seems. It is not a straight line. It is not a rigid sequence where the past is behind and the future is yet to come. That is what we were taught. But in the deeper reality that Thoth and the ancients knew, time is a mental field, a trick of the rational mind to organize the chaos of experience. But this trick becomes a cell when you believe you can only create later, tomorrow, when something changes. This is where the secret of the initiates is revealed. The now is all that exists. All manifestation happens in this very instant. There is no other point where the universe hears you. It doesn't matter what you plan, dream, or regret. Everything is being created now. The past is memory. The future is projection. Both exist only as mental movement within the eternal present. But what is vibrating now? That is what has power. The Templars, in their silent rituals, knew this. The Sufis, as they spun in the ecstasy of surrender, transcended the mind that divided them between yesterday and tomorrow. They touched the still center, the absolute instant where creation happens. The Kabbalists called this Ein Sof, the point outside of time where everything is already complete. They were not seeking in the future, they were unveiling the now, and when they entered this state, everything responded. Because when you live as if it already is, the field starts to reorganize reality around you. It is not illusion, it is tuning. Certainty in the now collapses probabilities. What seemed distant begins to come closer. Not because something magical happened outside, but because inside you, the vibration shifted from expectation to presence, from seeking to certainty, from absence to living reality. But there is a subtle detail that almost no one notices. The now cannot be forced. You don't get to it with effort or haste. The now only reveals itself when the ego gives up control, when the internal noise ceases, when the mind stops running. It is not a place, it is a state. And when you enter this state, time dissolves, and everything becomes possible. But attention, this is not about stopping action. It is about acting from an internal place where everything is already complete. When action is born from the now, it has power. When it is born from lack, it creates more lack. That is why so many efforts end in frustration, because they are attempts to change the world from a vibration of absence. But when you live the now with energetic integrity, life moves with you. The truth is that the future does not arrive. It is attracted, and it can only be attracted by those who vibrate as if they are already there. This is the difference between wanting and being, between waiting and accessing. And this is where forbidden metaphysics touches its most sensitive point. Creation does not respect time. It respects the vibrational state. The awakened creator, activating the power that was hidden for centuries. The reality you see is still an illusion. And it's not an illusion in the sense of being false, but rather malleable. What we call a solid, objective, unquestionable world is just a vibrational reflection. Modern physics has no more doubts. What we perceive as matter is actually energy condensed into observable patterns. A hologram shaped by the consciousness that observes it. You are not just inside the world. You are the point of origin of the reality you see. And this statement is not metaphorical. It is literal. Just like the image from a projector depends on the film inside it, everything you see around you is being projected from your own internal vibration. The most common mistake is trying to change the image on the screen, struggling with situations, people, problems, while the true power is in the projector. And that projector is you. That's why the Gnostics were persecuted. They openly said, "The world you see is not the ultimate reality. It is just a shell, a mental representation, an external symbol of what vibrates in the invisible." Believing that the external world is the cause is the mistake that imprisons. Understanding that it is the effect, that's what liberates. That is true freedom. Realizing that you are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of your consciousness. But there is a danger here. Because when you understand that everything is projection, responsibility becomes total. There is no one left to blame. Not the government, not your parents, not chance. If something persists outside, it's because it still pulses inside. That requires courage. It requires presence. It requires humility to look at your own field and realize that often what is being projected is not what you want, but what has not yet been transformed. And here, the final leap happens. Because when you stop reacting to the screen and start working on what emits the image, everything changes. Fear loses power. chaos dissolves, and reality becomes a transparent mirror of your vibration. This is the foundation of forbidden metaphysics. What was hidden for centuries because if it were understood by everyone, no system of control would survive. The time has come to activate this within you. You have already seen every fragment of this code. The mind that shapes, the subconscious that commands, the faith that moves, the emotion that drives, the frequency that tunes, the now that creates, the world that reflects. All of this now comes together in a single revelation. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through your own consciousness. You are the original verb, the point of origin, the creative core. This is the truth that the ancients carved in stone, hid in symbols, encoded in rituals. They knew that one day awakened souls would remember. And that day has come. The code of forbidden metaphysics was never lost. It was silenced, waiting for the right moment, waiting for you. There are no more veils, no more excuses. The power was always yours, not the power to manipulate the world by force, but to vibrate with such clarity that the world has no choice but to respond. Creation was never about control. It was always about coherence, about aligning the internal vibration with the reality you want to live. And now, that vibration is being born within you. You no longer need to chase reality. You are the one who chooses what the world will show you. This is not belief. It is conscious vibration. It is the return of the true creator. The one who doesn't need to convince, only tune in. Who doesn't need to prove, only live. The one who, by becoming whole inside, sees the entire universe bow on the outside. Today, you access the code that was burned in books, silenced in churches, distorted in schools. But even so, it survived, because it is impossible to kill what vibrates in truth. And now, that truth vibrates in you. Reality is waiting, not to be conquered, but to be co-created. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognized this truth. So write in the comments, "I awakened to the hidden code." This phrase is not just a sign of presence. It creates a vibrational field among all who feel the same calling. Let's meet there. And if you want to help this channel keep spreading these hidden messages, there is a space where you can contribute directly here in the first pinned comment and help this knowledge reach those who need to hear it most. Gratitude for walking with us in this forbidden truth. And don't leave the video yet. A special content has been prepared that complements exactly what you just saw. It's already appearing on your screen now. Click on it and let's continue this journey together.